See, the high points are that we brought out a forward-looking national digital communications policy, which lays out what should be the policy roadmap for the growth of this sector. It has fairly ambitious goals. It looks at how we can attract the investment required for new technologies like 5G. It speaks about how we can bring in greater employment, greater local manufacturing into this sector. Also about what should be the kind of spectrum roadmap. So, it addresses a lot of aspects that are necessary for the robust growth of the telecom industry. Second, we brought out a national frequency allocation plan, which says what we can expect in terms of spectrum allocations for various sectors of the communication industry. In the last year, the BharatNet project could be significantly accelerated. So, now about 1,18,000 villages have optic fiber broadband available. In addition to that, I think a large number of new services like in-flight authorizations, internet telephony, in-building solutions. So, I think a lot of work, it was a productive period. See, today the telecom sector has become a very fundamental infrastructure sector, and the kind of investment that we put into this infrastructure, the sooner we can actually cover uncovered areas, the sooner we can transition to 4G across the country. I think all of these are actually going to impact even the growth of GDP in the country. Now, therefore, we will have to ensure first of all that the industry is a stable, healthy industry, because the market fundamentals are fairly robust. We still have a lot of ground to cover. So, I think the key things would be ease of doing business, as I said, more focus on domestic manufacturing so that costs can be brought down, more ease of rights of way so that the fiber optic infrastructure, the tower infrastructure can be rolled out quickly. On the security side, we also have to have the telecom sector cert in place. So, I think these are the broad areas in which we have to work going forward. See, and I have said this before and I want to say it again. Government has put in place a set of enabling policies. What are the fundamental market dynamics? That is something that has to play out in the market. Now, I don't think it would be anybody's point that government should start intervening in that manner. So, the good thing is, see, in the last year, we did have some companies go out of the business. The remaining companies have merged. We now have 3 very large corporates. They have excellent management capabilities. They have the wherewithal to sustain large investments. The public sector, BSNL is the only one with their government has already announced its plans to revive it. So, I think overall with a stable market structure and the fact that fundamentally it is a growth market, I think these two, the equilibrium will establish itself sooner rather than later. See, in this area I think government has been fairly proactive, because they set up the high level task force with Professor Paul Raj, who is one of the world's leading authorities on the wireless. There is a detailed roadmap. There are 8 committees that are working on different aspects of 5G rollout. So, I think the government has been proactive. What I would ideally like to see is that industry should start looking at how they can leverage 5G. See, at the end of the day, 5G is capable of delivering huge productivity increases. Is industry gearing up for that? That is the key question. So, what I think we need to now focus on is to see how specific verticals, how specific sectors are actually getting ready to deploy and harness 5G. I think there are 2 or 3 key messages, and one is that it's time that people realized what is at stake in telecom sector and telecom infrastructure. It has become such a common utility that we can't do without it for a second, but in terms of how do we actually enable the growth of this infrastructure, I think enough thought is not going in. Particularly, local bodies, even today, people believe that if you set up a tower, then it's a health hazard. It has been proven that India has very strict health conditions, stringent standards, and therefore tower infrastructure is not injurious to health. Similarly, we need a lot more fiber infrastructure. We need city agencies to come together to be able to create that infrastructure. And the third thing is, as I said, it is really the user verticals of the telecom infrastructure that should drive the next wave of growth. So hopefully that will happen. See, first of all, I think the telcos have been doing a great job. The Indian telecom story is a very remarkable story, and I think they have demonstrated that how you can build an industry of this scale and of this magnitude, because I don't think there's any other infrastructure sector which it touches the life of 1.2 billion citizens. So clearly, I think we have a very capable telecom sector, but I think an area where we would like to see more happening is in terms of promoting local startups, of encouraging domestic manufacturing, and I'm not saying that only the large telcos should do it. I think the entire telecom ecosystem, the ISPs, the infrastructure providers, everybody should come together to create this.